Colin Yates. I'm the chair for the Center for Research and Innovation at Fanshawe College. I can speak best to the agri-food side of manufacturing, so the agri-food processing, because that's more my background and strength. But the simple answer to London is simply location. It's in close proximity to both border crossings in Ontario, and centrally located on some great arteries, being 401 and 402. That makes it very attractive for large corporations like Maple Leaf Foods, the Cakery, and other larger corporations that simply need a central location in order to get all the material they need for their manufacturing or process activities, but also to be able to get that to their markets across the province or out of province. What we're seeing right now is this group of individuals, this group of large corporations moving to London, a group of very interesting startups. There's mid-sized companies in London, all in the agri-food space, all in the food processing space, and they're coming together and saying, well, we need all these resources. We need some supports. We need venture capital. We need X, Y, Z, and they're starting to realize the potential of this whole group. And I think that's what's unique right now, is that we have a nice spread of startups right through to large corporations that can support and demand certain infrastructure needs. And what we need to happen now is the right group of service providers to settle down in the community to provide that infrastructure, similar to like a Communitech in Kitchener-Waterloo. We need a Communitech type model for food processing in London, and that can really solidify what that agricultural economy can, really do. And we're starting to see that with some service groups like RH Accelerator in London and the Western Fair. People are starting to come to the table that have unique skill sets and resources to bring to the table. But we just need one or two more things to really click, and then we will really start to see that ecosystem take off and become the Kitchener-Waterloo or Toronto startups ecosystems, but focused on the agriculture and agri-food processing. Mm-hmm. And it will be a game changer for sure for London. What's really coming to the forefront right now is artificial intelligence and sensors, particularly IoT sensors. And although this is not being adopted broadly at this time, there is a growing trend that this is being incorporated into a lot of new factories, particularly like the Maple Leaf Foods one is going to be the state-of-the-art factory when it comes to London. And what we're actually seeing is a trend of it moving from traditional agriculture into more of the traditional manufacturing spaces. So we've seen, GIS-enabled tractors for a number of years, but now we're actually taking that data and utilizing it in a way that's much more effective. The same with some of the sensors on the vehicles or in the farms. You can think of crop production or livestock production. We're seeing sensors being put on animals. We're seeing sensors being put on feed lots, and all this information allows us to make decisions when we start applying it with artificial intelligence. And through this, we're able to achieve more efficiencies. And what we're going to see over the next while is these efficiencies start to move through the marketplace. So in the previous number of years, it was through the smart building infrastructure. So, like Nest thermostats and all those types of things. And what they're doing is they're integrating them on platforms. And we'll start to see this into manufacturing as well as ag processing. We'll see that these platforms start to adopt all kinds of different sensors that are open, in the sense that you can take a sensor from company X and apply it to platform company Y, and they all talk to each other, which makes it a much more open environment with a lot more open data that companies can start to really apply interesting thought processes of how to create efficiencies, not only on the factory floor, but also in the field or in the farm. There's a lot of AI companies, artificial intelligence companies, are really one of Ontario's strengths. But there's a very strong startup community in Toronto and in Kitchener-Waterloo, where AI is core business for so many new exciting startups that are taking existing data streams and manipulating them in very interesting ways that we can start to adopt them in more traditional technologies and more traditional market, more traditional uses like manufacturing. What Fanshawe Centre for Research and Innovation does very well is in the biotech side, and that's why I focus on the food processing and food analytics. We have in our Carib Industry Lab the ability to help companies come up with interesting ingredients. We help them test their product for nutritional, for shelf life, various food products. And we also have one of the first licenses for research in cannabis across Canada. So this allows us to partner with various cannabis companies. And what we're actually doing and pivoting during COVID is to work on actual treatments for the COVID virus. We're also partnering with some cannabis companies on a similar sort of fashion to treat some of the immune response, looking at minor cannabinoid products that can be produced at a very pharmaceutical grade. So what we're doing particularly at Fanshawe is trying to position ourselves not just with COVID, but with our day-to-day business to provide a very specific resource for companies in the region, whether it's Agri-Food or cannabis, where they can set up their trials with us and have us do those trials so that they look at really specific problems and challenges that they can't get sorted out elsewhere, and be able to apply some funding to that through various government sources like NSERC and the consortium of college funding through the Tsunami Network, which is kind of the manufacturing side of the research. So this allows us to look at that processing activity and find out what is the endpoint that they're getting to, and allows us to test that endpoint that they receive, whether it's for the shelf life of a food or whether it's, okay, here's this cannabinoid that we've been able to purify. How pure is it? Can we optimize that purification so it can be done cheaper? What are the new technologies out there that can allow us to do it cheaper? So there's a lot of interesting things coming down that we really hope to position ourselves and start to build out our laboratory even further to get into those specific niches. A post-secondary institution is really a linchpin to any community, and sometimes it's the major employer in a lot of communities. So just the value of jobs that they provide is extremely important. But like any community, we will continue to play a vital role, just in terms of attracting youth to the area, and some of that youth will always stay. They always enjoy their hometown of their first post-secondary institution that they've gone to. But what we need to start to see happening is that post-secondary institutions start to cater to what that regional strength is a little bit better. They all have the inherent interest in having as many different programs as they possibly can have, but not thinking of whether those programs are directly connected to the community's workforce needs. And, Fanshawe is doing a very good job of starting to address with the cannabis industry, developing cannabis programs, starting to look more at the food industry because of the demand from jobs there. So a lot of the post-secondary institutions are starting to really drive forward, particularly the colleges and polytechnics are really starting to drive forward and realize that, okay, we need to be responding faster to this now. We need to be taking part on helping drive the economy more just in the educational part, but also through like the Center for Research and Innovation, providing a service to help companies either bring a new product to market faster, help them pivot faster, and then being a funnel for government resources like grant funding to some of these companies to help them do that.